Hello and welcome to the COVID Chronicles YYC. I'm Denise Summers of Empower Communications, a local business storyteller and communications consultant. With me today are Derek Deacon-Rogers, the Chief Generosity Officer of GenerousSolutions, and Sean Crump, founder and head chair of Universal Access. And this week, they've just made a major announcement where they've merged their two companies under one entity called Included by Design. So welcome, Derek and Sean. Nice to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And so give me some background. Tell me about who you are and what you do. What is, Derek, what is GenerousSolutions?
Sure. So GenerousSolutions is a ticketing and registration platform originally built to support nonprofits and their fundraising and ticketing needs. To date, we've been used to process and raise funds almost $1.4 million for Calgary nonprofits, and it's been really great. One of the aspects we are really working on is how we can actually include more accessibility into our ticketing and registration platform. One of the things that we do is in supporting nonprofits, a large percentage of nonprofits support people living with disabilities. And so the ability to include them in the events and in the registrations and the process is something we're looking at. And so that's something we've moved towards doing now. So now we have a fully inclusive, accessible ticketing and registration platform, both on the front end for people purchasing tickets or buying or completing registrations, as well as on the back end for the people actually selling the tickets or collecting the registration. So it gives an opportunity for employment opportunity for people living with disabilities as well.
Right. And Sean, tell me about Universal Access. What does that do? And who do you work with?
Yeah, so we started by pulling different standards that are legislated in countries from around the world and kind of putting it all together in one platform, identifying kind of who's leading in what area in the built environment, as well as kind of the surrounding areas, parks, transportation, all of those components, and building a tiered certification platform from it. What that allows us to do is we can consult on new build projects, we can go in and assess existing spaces, and give them a criteria on how to do it better, but also what other people, what other countries, what other companies are going to be looking for should they be coming into Canada or coming into the space. And then certifying it at the other end so that people with disabilities or anyone for that matter looking at the space can easily identify and qualify it based off the criteria they're used to in their day-to-day life.
Okay, and what kind of impact does that have for a business's bottom line?
Huge. I mean, first, everybody's looking for the social elements that a business contributes towards. LEED ran on an energy model, and there's a lot of models that help people build out their corporate social responsibility. This is just another element that can help complement those platforms. But more on a humanistic side, there's greater than 20% of our population are individuals that do live with some sort of disability. That's a huge sector of our population. It's one of the only demographics that anybody can become a part of at any point in their life, and most likely will at some point. So as we continue to see the boomers age, that will come with different types or variants of disability, whether it's hearing, vision, dementia or debilitating diseases that continue to degenerate as they age, or mobility disabilities like myself. I broke my neck at 19 years old and have been utilizing a wheelchair for my independence since, and found a huge kind of gap in what I was able to do then and what I could do in my current state. And so how do we create an equality of opportunity for individuals, whether that's employment or just engaging with the community? And how do we reestablish the confidence people have before they go out, because there's only so many times that you can go calling ahead, having people tell you that they're accessible, only to arrive and find out there's a step, or the restaurant's full of only high tables, or applying for a job to only find out you can't get into the building to do your interview, whatever the case may be. Creating that equality for people so that they have a chance, and then giving them a platform that they can rely upon so that they have the confidence to go out and re-engage with what is already kind of a burnt experience that they've encountered before.
Right. And social isolation, you were talking about, say, going to a restaurant or something. Social isolation is a big challenge for people with disabilities. And so tell me how this ticketing system helps create more opportunities, more inclusivity and accessibility for people with disabilities.
Yeah, of course. So surprisingly, social isolation existed for people with disabilities before COVID, and people were living with it for far longer than 4 months, and still today struggle with it on a continuous basis, and that increases depression rates, increases suicide rates, and all of those type of negative effects that come along with those things that are thankfully being more discussed now because of the pandemic, and there's a better understanding of the damage or the harm that it can create. So by providing a higher level of accessibility and a better understanding around what that can mean for people, it'll encourage a larger acceptance in a community basis, where if you experience something often enough, it no longer becomes an abnormality, but common occurrence. And, if a female were to go into a bar full of only men, there wouldn't be a comfortability there for that individual. Likewise, if you took like an ethnicity, right? If you were a person of color and went into a bar full of white guys or something, maybe there would be an awkward kind of step for a second, wondering why, right? Like, because that's not something that happens on a regular basis. However, when you're somebody with a disability, it's quite often you're the only person with a visible disability in a space at any given time. It's not, a common occurrence to see multiple individuals. So helping to kind of create a normality, or make it a more regular situation, I think will create a comfortability amongst individuals as well, so that when you go in and there's other people rolling around or doing, just kind of enjoying the environment, you don't feel like kind of that lone person in an environment, but just part of that community or part of that space without sticking out. So I think the big goal is accessibility is the first step to kind of getting us closer to that inclusive goal that we aspire to achieve.
Right. And well, wonderful work that you're doing. Is there anyone else doing this work? Has anyone else created a similar system, or is anyone else doing the certification that you're doing with buildings and spaces?
Yeah, so there's a number of agencies throughout North America and the world that do consulting on accessibility. A lot of them just consult on the standards that exist within their own country or within their own city. And for certification, Rick Hansen Foundation actually has a Canadian-based certification that identifies spaces here in Canada that meet a higher level of accessibility than exists in the legislated standards so far.
Okay. And what about the ticketing system? Is this a first of its kind, or is there anything else like it? What sets yours apart?
Yeah, it's what sets us apart is just the full immersion, or the inclusion of accessibility modifications into the ticketing platform. So, for example, someone can go to our website and with the click of a button can actually change about 13 different digital accommodations on the page in order to make it more accessible. And again, that's just not the front end, it's also the back end. So someone who's selling tickets can change the space of text, can change the contrast, can change the size of text. They can have the page read aloud. It can have those different accommodations built right in. It just makes it fully accessible for anybody.
Well, that's amazing. And how long did it take to create this?
It took a little while. It took. I have some very strong developers that were able to build a system that could easily incorporate a widget into it that allowed it to accommodate. We were unsure if it was going to be able to accommodate throughout, but the way that it was built was clean enough that allowed that to happen, which was wonderful. We were actually able to turn it on for a number of events we've done recently, and we've received some phenomenal feedback from kind of the disability community for a lot of the relaunch town halls that this platform is something that is revolutionary to them, and how do they not know it wasn't out there? They want to use it for all their events going forward. So it was really great feedback to hear.
Well, that's great. Congratulations. And so what are your future plans for it? What comes next?
Right. So from a ticketing platform, it continues to grow. We continue to help nonprofits as well as for-profits that want to have a more inclusive experience with their events. We've been very fortunate to have the support of a lot of nonprofits across the province. And a lot of those nonprofits are, I'll call them sister organizations or chapters of other national nonprofits that can be using the platform as well. And so what we do is, because of our business model, and our business model is that it's free to use, we charge a small percentage fee to the purchaser. So it's free for any nonprofit to use, any for-profit to use. We just get paid when a pay transaction is made, and it's free for anybody else to use for a free event. And so our idea is that we're going to continue to grow across the country. And we're really going to leverage the accessibility component of it and the inclusivity of what that provides to build stronger communities and get more people involved in events.
Well, that's wonderful. And so is there anything else you want to tell me about it? The system sounds so interesting. Like, so anybody can use this? Is that what you're saying? And
Sure.
For any event? And
yeah, GenerousSolutions.com. There's a button that says Start Now. You'll click that, and it takes you through a process to create a profile, and you can have your page built in about 10 minutes. It really is quite that simple. It's been tested by a lot of people, and we've raised a lot of money through the platform, and now we're just kind of opening it up to everybody. I'll give a great example of one that we just did. We worked with a local brewery here in Calgary to do a beer tasting. They were launching new beers. And so what we did is we were able to use our platform to help them sell their beer, some for pickup, some for delivery. They handled the delivery, but we were able to get almost 75 people purchasing a beer sampling package, and their beer tasting room only holds 50 people. So we were able to get more people as part of their tasting than they would have had if they had it in person in the brewery. And so that's kind of the way that we can see the ability to include people at home, whether they have a mobility issue or another disability living with, into events that people would have as more in-person events. And so we kind of see the future being more of, link it to NHL hockey, where you pay a premium to be there in person, but there's a lot of people who experience it virtually as well. Can we take all events and kind of follow that same kind of model where there's a chef's table that's the premium in person, there's an at-home experience for people as well. Or there's a gala event going on for a nonprofit fundraiser, but instead of having the at-home event be a distant second thought, it's all thought about the same way. It's all thought about how do we have an end-to-end event experience, live and in person, as well as virtually, to include as many people as possible in the community.
right, so more of a hybrid type of event going forward. And I've heard that quite a bit lately, that that's what the future is going to hold for different events and so on. And so, well, thank you for joining us here today. And is there anything else you want to tell me about the new system? And by the way, I love the name, Included by Design. And maybe you could tell me about that. What is the purpose of coming together under this one umbrella?
Yeah, so there was some gaps that both of our organizations needed to fill. And we were kind of haphazardly supporting one another off the side of our desks. And it started making more and more sense as we were helping each other identify where in the market we needed to position ourselves and what kind of things we needed to start incorporating. And so we've come up with a couple new ideas and some new opportunities that we've started developing and designing, yet to come, but we have a very large launch in November that we're gearing up for, with some of these new pieces that will, in our opinion, change a lot of the way people engage with their communities and the way that we can support all people of varying ability and varying unique characteristics within themselves. So we're really, really excited about what we have to come, but also want to keep a little bit under the hat to keep people excited and coming back to see what we have coming up.
Well, that's great. Are you able to share anything about that at all, or is it still top secret?
I don't know about top secret. We're not very good at keeping things too tight, but right now it's just creating opportunity and leveraging what Generous and Universal Access both uniquely do independently,
right,
and finding a world for that to exist cohesively, and by world, more like a virtual environment. So yeah, we're really excited to get some of these things finalized. And like I say, we're working again with the same development team Derek built Generous on, and continue to push that needle forward. So really excited to continue building and working with my new partner. And yeah, it's been fun.
Well, congratulations on the merger. And is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to tell me today about what you're doing or what you've got planned?
We are launching a new program for our lowest certification, which is a barrier-free certification. It's, to put it in comparison, we have over 400 criteria to fulfill for a bronze certification. Our barrier-free is between 40 and 45 components, so much less. This is something that businesses, single entry businesses, can fulfill themselves. We have a mobile platform coming out probably in the next 2 weeks, I would say, that they can actually load onto any iOS device. Unfortunately, Android isn't in there yet, but do the assessment themselves, so at no cost, and be able to acquire a certification through that method for the time being. So yeah, really excited to start getting more businesses associated with accessibility and inclusion, and start pushing that to the organizations that we partner with and others that can utilize this information for their members, and hopefully get more people engaged with their communities as we hopefully start seeing a vaccine or some kind of end to all of the COVID, but in preparation to know that things do continue and people will get out. And our goal is definitely to see more people come out of isolation than went in because of COVID.
Right, right. Well, kudos to both of you for the valuable work you're doing. Yeah, you're to be applauded for sure. And how can people reach you if they want to get in touch?
Sure. I think that the easiest way for right now is to go to universalaccess.me or GenerousSolutions.com and get us there. Alternatively, if you are interested, it's includedbydesign.com as well, and you can reach us through there. So those are kind of the three main ways to get a hold of us. I'm sure that you can also reach us through LinkedIn. Sean Crump and Derek Deacon-Rogers are both quite active on LinkedIn, so you can find us there as well.
Right.
With a subnote, Included by Design, if you go there, you can sign up for a newsletter, which will continue to leave hints and clues about what we have coming up on a monthly, quarterly basis.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have both of you on here.
Thank you for this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Really appreciate the opportunity and allowing us to kind of share this exciting news.
Yeah, no, it is very exciting. And thank you to everyone for joining us on the COVID Chronicles, and Calgary strong, and stay safe and stay healthy.